So we talked a little bit just now about the candidate experience. So now you're going to get a whole session on the candidate experience, what it is, why it's important to provide your candidates with a good experience. So Chris Galley from Intuit and I got connected a few months ago through the Candidate Experience Awards. I'm going to let him talk more about what that is. Everybody in the room should be a part of that. Your organization should be applying for it. If you think you have a horrible candidate experience, not that anybody here would ever have such a thing, it's even more important. None of the data is shared. You don't have to go public. It's all about the carrot and not at all about the stick. Chris is a great example of a staffing leader who is leading edge, willing to acknowledge the fact that they do a ton of things that are great, and then there are a couple things that there are growth opportunities in, as they say. So, Chris Galley from Intuit.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning. Do we need a stretch break? Come on, let's take a quick one. All right. Now, how was that experience? Was that a good experience? So I'm going to start off by just playing a few things from my fellow speakers that kind of stuck out with me. I do know who Marcus Welby is. I remember WordPerfect. Bear aspirin. I don't know if you could go on college and have anybody understand what that is. But, a couple of key points. Defining talent, knowing what great talent looks like. We hear this all the time. Because we just want great talent. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do you define it? Wrapping that into how that plays into your mission and your vision and your culture of your company. Getting out there and, putting the right people and getting the right people out there as your evangelists. The college students don't want to see me. They want to see people who are like them. They want to see people who are doing the things that they think they want to do. They want to see business leaders building product. That's what they want to see. And in Intuit, we're looking for technologists mostly. So you hear a lot of that come out in my talk. But the reality is that all students, all candidates really want the same thing. And we've done a little bit of research, and it comes down to three things. They want visibility, they want status, and they want feedback. It's that simple. We're not creating a new wheel here. And this is still a people business. It is a relationship business. And yeah, we have all these tools these days to extend that relationship. But at some point, that relationship's got to get personal. And that's where we think we win. That's where we think our candidate experience is a competitive advantage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We heard about data. Doug talked about data and using data and really digging into the right data. We talked about the government trying to get their act together from a recruiting perspective. I heard the government and Google getting their act together from a recruiting perspective in the same month. I'm scared. Right? If it's true, I'm really scared. How many times have you gone a day without saying LinkedIn in the business that we do? Well, I'll say it. LinkedIn, thank you for hosting us today. Thank you, Stephen, for pulling me in. Dream Makers. We actually have a token title that we pass around the team depending upon the day that's called Dream Squasher. So if people are acting as Dream Squashers, we're not afraid to call it out. Okay, so that said, a couple of things you need to know about me. I'm going to push you to think a little bit differently. That's what we do at Intuit. I don't follow my slides, so don't try to look at me and look at the slides and hear what I'm saying at the same time. I apologize for that up front. And then thirdly, I talk about product. What is our product? What is our product as any talent acquisition function, whether it be college or whether it be professional or executive? Is it the process that we deliver? Is it the metrics or cost per hire? No, we have a product that happens to be people. And what's different about selling anything else is that my car didn't get to decide whether I bought it or not. My Samsung Galaxy Note 2 didn't decide whether they got to work with me or not. And that's what makes our business so unique and so different. And so when you talk about product, and yeah, it's okay to talk about people as product because there's a value advantage on both sides. And if you think about it, businesses make money by selling a product. Raise your hand in this room right now if you think you could actually make money selling the product that you sell. Okay? Then why are you working for a company? Why do we all work for a company? Is it because it's just cheaper to do it in-house? I don't think so. The reality is we think like a function. We think like a group of people who are here. Yes, we've come a long way from the early days of being called personnel and mostly administrative. We are assessors. We are dream creators. Right? But does the business always see us that way? Because I could tell you, I've been in those environments when it was myself and a coordinator, and we filled 500 college recs between interns and co-ops and et cetera, visiting professors and whatnot. And I could show all the data that I needed to, but I didn't get any extra people either because they don't look at talent as a product. So today, I'm hopefully going to share a little bit about how we think about talent as our product, and it really starts with engagement. Right? So you got to get the talent to engage. And that's why candidate experience is so important. We say candidate experience is our competitive... You pulling me off already, dude? We say that candidate experience is our competitive advantage. And we do everything built around candidate experience. Our entire recruiting process is built around candidate experience. Everything we ask the managers to do is to deliver a candidate experience. And it's a candidate experience defined by the vision and the culture and the mission of Intuit. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So again, I'm with Doug. This doesn't make any sense. And my team's probably making fun of me right now because they actually told me it would come up like this. I said, no, don't worry about it. It'll look better once it's in there. Look, you got to have a framework. You got to have a framework. You got to understand who the talent is. You got to understand how you delight them, how you wow them. Not everything you do is you're gonna be able to do. But if you really understand what's important to those folks, then you can at least start building it incrementally. So if you're just putting a process in because it's high volume and you got to figure out how to get that many hires with the amount of resources you have, you're starting in the wrong place. So generally speaking, you know, this is a general graph. I mean, with the university, it's a lot different. You know, if you're connecting people by email, or even if it's Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm wondering if you're really gonna, if that's the right place to start with university, right? So I got a joke. So a priest, a rabbi, an imam are at a university event. Which one gets the best talent? I don't know. The best talent, as defined by them, they're hitting Glassdoor. They're hitting the co-ops and the interns who were there the year before. They're talking to their professors. Hopefully they're talking to their parents because, believe it or not, nobody knows who Intuit is at the universities. That's one of our biggest challenges. We have one of the biggest brands in the world. And we go to universities like, what do you do? Oh, well, we TurboTax and we're QuickBooks. We, you know, 1 out of every $6 in the US GDP goes through our tools. Okay, that's not important to me. All right? So if you're not building your brand and you don't understand who your target is and you don't understand what gets them engaged, then you get a problem. You just, right, you're doing the shotgun as opposed to the rifle. So whatever little changes need to happen here because it's university as opposed to a professional or an executive, make it. But it's really not that simple because you start breaking down some of these moments of truth. Even if it is an email, what makes that person take that email and go, I think I do want to work there, or I think I'm going to apply, or I think I'm going to refer a friend, right? You take it through a phone screen. We're always recruiting. We're always closing. We're always retaining. One of the things that does make us a little bit different than a lot of companies, and I do a lot of benchmarking with my peers, is that we measure our internals as well, right? We measure not only internal hires, we measure the experience that every internal applicant has if they apply to a job. We measure as soon as they apply. In fact, I've turned half of my recruiting team towards poaching internally. Yes, I'm an internal poacher. Right? We see somebody's been in a job for more than a year and a half. We call them and say, hey, we know it's probably time. What are you thinking? We could do the same thing in the university side. We all have co-ops and interns that come to us going into their junior year. And then we spend all this money and all this to do. We get all these executives to come in and talk to them. And then we just let them go back to school. Right? Because you got to make trade-offs. You don't have enough resources. We are heavily invested in university recruiting. I still can't do everything I want. So you got to understand your target. You got to understand what wows them. And then you got to be okay with and if you know those things, then you got to be okay with saying, these are the people I'm more interested in. We had a situation where an entire class of interns that we offered, a class of interns who went to the same school, who all knew each other this year, we offered all of them jobs, and we got an email from one of them saying, we respectfully decline your offer. That's what's different these days, right? So if you don't know who your target audience is, if you don't know what wows them, if you don't know their habits or what makes them, and you know what, we learn from that. We learned because we didn't address them as a group, and we didn't understand their needs as a group. And so it might have been one person who convinced all of them, but they all went to work for the same company, right? And if we're not checking in this process all the way along and sharing learnings and sharing that journey, then you're never going to know what's important to them. Now, how many people think, okay, raise your left hand if you think that engagement in recruiting is an art. It's more of an art. If you think it's more of an art than a science, okay? Raise your right hand if you think it's a science. We got a problem, people. Houston, we have a problem. It's both. It's both. And so what I'm going to tell you a little bit is about how we understand engagement. So if you're not thinking of your product in a means that you can't scientifically predict what's important to your product, whether they tell you the right thing or not, I mean, that's always going to be part of the problem. But they will tell you stuff. I forgot to press the buttons there. And so if you're not measuring what they tell you, if you're not being a scientist, Doug, you got to go back and get some math. You got to. Because they will tell you what's important to them. Now, this is a little bit of our research based upon all candidates, both internal and external. And it's all jobs. But when you look at the patterns, they're really not that different in terms of what's important to them. Now, how you address what's important to them, that's what's a little bit different. But if you look at, we look at the engagement experience in our window as from first touch all the way through onboarding. And so we break it down two ways, and you can see the perceptions of the hiring experience and the perceptions of onboarding. And ultimately, what we want engagement. Why is engagement important anyway? I mean, you already got them in the door. Who cares? Retention, motivation, productivity, goals alignment, word of mouth. The university crowd will go viral on you in a heartbeat. And that's not always good, right? And then everybody gets all focused on damage control. But if you do the things up front, and you know what you're getting, and you're providing those experiences, the worst thing you can do from a candidate experience perspective is create a faux candidate experience. And you go out there and you go, you know what, I got to compete with Google and Facebook and Intuit and Salesforce and to get the best technical talent, you got to have this entrepreneurial environment and cool buildings and basketball court and everything else, and you got to have great work-life balance, and you try to be everything to everybody, right? But what's interesting is that if you do a little bit of science, they'll tell you what's important. And what's important is that your mission, vision, and culture really comes through. And it's not the recruiters, they really care. Okay, so the recruiters kind of get them to the door, but what they really care about is when they sit across from that architect or that technology leader or that peer, that they are representing Intuit the way we told them Intuit really is. They care about getting the realistic job preview, right? And that's part of that visibility quotient. So visibility is really about making sure that that candidate feels they're personally visible, but also making sure that they have a window into Intuit that's not this phony window that you look into and wow, the kitchen's great, but then you go into the living room and it's a dump. They want to know exactly what they're working on and who they're working on it with. So, and we live in we're in technology, right? Stuff is always changing. And projects can change, and people get that. But if you're always changing what the role is or who they report to, they're going to tell you about it. And they're going to tell all their friends about it. And the next thing you know, you're going to go onto campus or you're going to go send some of your leaders in to teach and do some work in the classroom. And they're going to ask that question. Where we do come in is that they want to know that we understand what they're looking for. They want to know that they look at us as their advocate, right? They look at us as kind of that trusted advisor if you're doing it right. And they want to know that they really listen to you, that you're not shoving a job down their throat. And lastly, they want to know that they got a fair shake. They want to know that the questions they got were relevant. They want you to push them. They just spent all this money on a degree, and they want to show you what they got. Right? So from a hiring experience, that's important. Now, there's some other things. And so our values, the only call out here is that it's basically a correlation coefficient. It tells you the strength of the relationship. It goes from +1 to -1. If you don't know what an R value is, you need to figure it out. Because our profession is changing. If you're not using data to your advantage, you don't understand your product. If you don't understand your product, you're not going to engage them. If they don't get engaged, you're going to be working somewhere else. And we could blame it on budget, and we could blame it on non-investment, and I've been to all those places. And I'm fortunate to work for a place that gets it. But when that happens, it's because you're not explaining the product and the value of the product and what you get by spending a little bit more in terms of what product. Do you want a BMW or do you want a Yugo? So with all this data, there's always things, and we're constantly sharing with our leaders a few things here. And I'm running short on time, so we'll do it fast. But you know what? If you're not planning up front, this is where we get into a rhythm of being a program, right? We're going to hire this many every year, and we're going to go to these schools, and here's the criteria. So we could explain to the unhappy leader who doesn't get to go to their alumni, go to their school. But if you're not planning your talent, you can't do all those things we just talked about. Give them the work that they want, with the people they want, on the roles that they want. Backdoor references, obviously a bigger deal as people get down the road in their career. But you know, we have ins, and we could talk to people all we want, even at the universities, because if you've been there long enough. But be on the up and up. Inappropriate midstream interview discontinuation, that's one of the things that we really, really frown upon. And this goes back to training your leaders on candidate experience and why it's important. And if we didn't do our job up front the right way, then don't make the company look bad. Too many interviews, screening out versus screening in. We talk about that at Intuit a lot. Look, we want to figure out how to screen people in versus screening them out. It's real easy to screen them out. There's all kinds of things you could screen people out on. That doesn't tell me who the great products are, though. Disrespect, not respecting their personal time or culture. Having people come in on, number 4 than number 3, number 3, number 4. Not having a two-way show and tell. This is the part where it says, challenge me, man. Make it hard. Make me work for it. But give me feedback and tell me where I stand. Interview no-shows, these are pretty big. If we haven't figured this out, we've been recruiting for hundreds of years, and if we haven't figured these, but it really is. The people, it's about relationships. It's about visibility. It's about telling me where I stand, and it's about treating me like a person with respect. Because I may not want to work for your company anyway. But we can all be dream makers, and in the end, we define who we do spend more time with a certain group of people because we've defined our talent. We know who it is. We want everybody to love us because we have consumer products, and we try to treat them. But we have different ways that we treat each person, each type of person, a little bit differently based upon what we think our level of engagement will be. Now, when you've done it right, you get a lot of emails that look something like this. And I get a lot of these. Dear recruiter or dear hiring manager, thank you for your reply. I just want to say that this recruiter is great. She does call me, email me whenever she said she would. She keeps me in the loop. I understand how busy she is, just as any other recruiter might be. But what really made her stand out is that she's true to her word. Even after she delivered the news that the role was offered to somebody else, she went out of her way to ask me if there's any other role I'm interested in so she could reach out to her colleague. Letting him or her know we spoke, it may not mean anything to someone else, but it means a lot to me. Not everyone does that, and based upon my experience, applying for a job back at Intuit since last year, that didn't roll off right, but you get the point. So we touch hearts, we touch dreams. We try to be everything to everybody, and that's part of our problem. When you understand who your target is, and you give them the visibility they need, you give them status, and you give them feedback even when it's bad, and you know what? Drop a referral on them and help that person. We're all connected some way, somehow. Help that person get to their dreams. It might take a little bit extra time. But in the end, that word of mouth, that candidate engagement, that's what matters. And if you're not measuring this stuff from a scientific angle, you're behind the curve. So, with that, am I a dream squasher or a dream maker? I'm feeling squash. Thank you very much. All my contact information is up here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you. We've time for one question if anybody's got. You can't get away that easily.
Dang.
Yeah. Question. Anybody? Bueller? All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I am going to take this opportunity. We are, I think, 4/6 of the way through. Anybody good at metrics can do that math. And what I'd like people to do now, at the end of the session, whether you're here in person or whether you're at home or in your office watching the live stream, is either tweet or email all of the good, the bad, and the ugly from today. We want to get your feedback. Just like Chris talked about the candidate experience, we want this to be a good experience. It's probably too late for a lot of stuff today. If you didn't like the food, oh well. If you didn't like me, bugger off. But for future sessions, for the folks at LinkedIn, as they do more sessions with employers, as at collegerecruiter.com, when we do the December 9th one in New York, whether you're going to be there personally, whether you're going to be there virtually, we want to know what you liked. We want to know what you didn't like. So tweet. You can tweet me at Steven Rothberg. You can email me, Steven, Steven, at collegerecruiter.com. And also, if it's really ugly and you don't want to tell me who you are, if you want to remain anonymous, that's cool. Go to the Contact Us page on our site on collegerecruiter.com and fill in a bogus name and email address. You know, your conference was brutal at xyz.com. Whatever you want to do. And then feel free to just rip us apart or tell us how incredibly sexy we are, like Glenn is.